Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Love Yourself Truly, the podcast. I'm Brittany.
And I'm Jess.
I almost
Hello,
forgot.
hello.
I almost forgot what my name was there for a second. I was like, what am I? Human?
Whatever you want to be.
Apparently, whatever I want to be today. But yeah, we're back. We're here. Welcome to another episode.
Yeah, it's a brand new month.
Oh my
October,
gosh, it is.
the
It
month
is
of
October.
spooky.
Woo! My favorite. So excited. Oh, we finally put up our 12-foot skeleton.
Nice.
It's bitching, like so cool. It's as tall as our house. It like we had to like anchor it to our like back fence and everything, and then we had to put like big old rocks on its base because it gets pretty windy here, so we wanted to make sure it didn't teeter over. And then
Imagine.
oh my god, just this giant skeleton like falling down. No, that's like everyone's worst nightmare. uh And then it has like LED lights in its eyes, so it like blinks and like looks around and stuff. So at night you like totally see that. And then we put up this like light that goes underneath it and it just totally like illuminates it.
Creepy.
It's so creepy, but it's awesome. So yeah. Anyways, the month of spook has begun and I'm all about it.
However, you have been decorating since August.
Very
So
true. Very true. So yeah. But it's finally here. Now it's appropriate. So I can talk all about it.
yeah, who cares if it's appropriate or not?
Yeah, exactly. It's whatever makes me happy.
Exactly.
Yep. So, um, that wasn't my gratitude of the week, but it's a fun fact. Did you have a gratitude of the week?
I did. So funny enough, my gratitude of the week is I finally decorated for Halloween.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't do much because we have such a small space, but like my entertainment center kind of turns into like what our fireplace would be with
Mhm.
decorations. And of course, I watched Nightmare Before Christmas.
I'm pretty
So
sure you watched it like 3 times so
I
far.
have watched it 3 times so far. I have.
Nice.
There's just sometimes where I'm like laying there and I'm like, I want to do something that makes me happy. Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yep. It's like the go-to happiness.
It
It
is.
never makes you sad. It's
Nope.
awesome.
See, Jack Skellington. I got him every time we
Yeah,
record now. So,
perfect. I love it.
what about you?
What do you, I was gonna ask, what do you put on your mantle?
So I put like spider webs,
Nice.
and then I have these two little skeletons they're probably like a foot compared to your 12-foot skeleton. So I put them, and then Trader Joe's the other day had they were selling like the little mini pumpkins. So I
I
bought a
love
couple of the
those.
mini pumpkins, and then I have a banner that has a bat, a jack-o'-lantern, a ghost, and it's just like glittery.
Oh, cute.
And I just like sachet, I guess would be
Yeah.
the word to use. I sachet that, and then there's like a gravestone and then a black candle. So
Nice. I like it.
yeah. Yeah.
Simple,
I have
but
these
does
little
the trick.
I have these little skeleton lights too that I usually put on the window, but
Mhm.
like Darren's been so busy that I feel bad like asking him to put them up. So
Mhm.
those haven't gone up yet, but they like blink orange,
Cool.
my
I
little
like it.
skeletons.
Are
So
your are your little like mini skeletons like they're like yeah, like a foot, like this big, maybe a bit
yes,
bigger.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. I think we just got some of those and we put them, they're like hanging on our tree because we have like a little Halloween tree. So they're like I put them so that way they're like it looks like they're crawling up the tree.
That's cool.
It's really cool. They're
Yeah, those
so
are
tiny and
those
cute.
are the I mean, these are pretty maybe they're bigger than a foot now that I think about it, because they're like this big.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, that might
they're
be.
pretty tall.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just chill on top of the spider webs next to the pumpkins, and
Hell yeah.
it's
I
the way
like
I bring
it.
my little Halloween into my house.
I like it. Don't when you like decorate for Halloween, don't you feel like the fall air like flowing through your house? Like the crisp, like I don't know.
Yes, with the exception that it was like 85 when I decorated. So
Yeah, it's been hot here too. We were like pouring sweat putting up our giant skeleton, but when I like come in the house, I'm like, it feels like it should be crisp and like cool, you know?
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I'm not allowed to have fall candles in my house because my husband does is like one of those people that when summer's over, he's depressed. So
Mm,
if I have like fall scents in the house, he gets all like meh.
I see. Only scents are allowed during like Christmas when summer's like long gone. Is that how it works? Because I know
I'm
you have
not
like
even I'm
Christmas
not even
candles.
allowed to have Christmas
No
candles. Like
Christmas
I
candles?
still do it
Okay.
because it's my house and especially during Christmas, I'm like, you're not going to tell me not to put like pine smelling stuff in our house. But he just doesn't like it. He likes the tropical smells.
Okay. Okay. Got it. That suits Darren. I get it. But
Ridiculous.
I don't mind the ebb and flows of the seasons, you know.
I
You
don't either.
can't have summer all year round.
No, no. Actually, I used to like dislike winter and cold things, but I don't know. Like I'm feel like I like the rain
Hmm.
and the cold and a snuggly blanket and a good
Hmm.
fireplace. Can't
Yeah,
wait to have a house with a fireplace.
I know. That's the one thing we're missing. But when you live in Arizona, you don't really need. I mean, in the winter you do, but I don't know. Just not a lot of houses have fireplaces in the desert.
Yeah, I can't say that I've gone to a house in the desert that had one.
Yeah,
At
I don't
least
think
not
so.
like Arizona desert.
Yeah, I don't.
Like Joshua Tree, of course.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, those are like kind of few and far between too. I don't know. But yeah,
Not much
anyway.
anymore.
No, they're more
Hmm.
like yeah, I haven't been to Joshua Tree in a while, so but well, that's exciting.
Yeah. What about you? What's your gratitude of the week?
My gratitude of the week is we've been doing these like at home date nights. So, and we've been like kind of making it a point to do them like once a week. But I mean, we did add in a little bit of Halloween decorating on some of them, but we basically like make some dinner together and we'll like try a new recipe or like try something fancy, you know, like just something that's not our usual, this easy dinner that we make. And then we'll make like some martinis or just another like cool cocktail that's like new and fancy. And then we like sit down and watch a movie together.
Nice.
Yeah. So one we did because we have like these Halloween movie posters. We have the original Frankenstein and then we have Psycho. So the first one we did, we watched both of those because like the Frankenstein movie's like 40 minutes long. It's not long at all. But yeah, so we had never, well, he'd seen Psycho, but I'd never seen either one of them. So it was super fun. And I don't know, it was just a fun little thing. We like still wearing like loungy clothes, but we are like got like cuter loungy clothes, I
Your
guess, you know, like
upscale Langy clothes.
yeah, we like, and then, you know, just kind of tried to make an effort of making it a special night versus just like our everyday weeknight where we cook dinner and chill out, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so we've been doing that. It's been fun because also we're, you know, saving money for travel and just other expenses and house improvements and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, all right, how can we still be romantic but not have to like go out to dinner and like go out and spend all this money? So yeah,
Nice.
yeah, it's been fun. Something new and something romantic. But yeah, so yeah, that's fine. Plus
Nice.
just everything Halloween.
I can't
It's
believe it's
pretty epic.
already October. That's crazy to
Dude,
me.
for
Like,
reals. Where did the year go? Like, I was telling Dan the other day, I was like, you know, it's actually kind of fun that we decorated early because now, like, I have been feeling like it's October for like a month and a half now. And so I was like always ahead of myself. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's only August or it's only September. And then I was like, I felt like I gained time versus just time being like elusive and gone in the snap of a finger, you know?
yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah. But now that it is October, I'm like, fuck, it's going to be gone before we know it.
I know. I
But
know. I wish we could have planned a Disneyland trip.
I know we might be coming out. I don't know. There might be a time, but we'll talk offline about that. We don't need our lovelies don't need to hear about our, our planning to hang out.
Oh, that's too
Uh,
funny.
couple housekeeping things really quick. I did figure out how to put our videos up on Spotify, so they're now available for you lovelies to listen on or watch on Spotify, as well as our YouTube channel. As you all know, you can subscribe and to our channel at Love Yourself Truly Podcast on YouTube, and then of course, as always, follow us on Instagram. But yeah, everything's in the show notes too. So just had to throw that out there. If you want to see our faces, we're now in 2 places.
Great.
Woohoo.
Just talking with our hands and all our
I
facial
know.
expressions. It's
I
gonna
know.
be amazing.
At least we're not dressing up, but we're like putting in a little bit more effort for you guys.
Not showing up as hags.
Or not like straight from the gym, like dripping in sweat, hair all amuck. Yeah, no, I actually showered beforehand, so
It's funny.
progress.
You're welcome.
But yeah. So anyways, that is all I
Awesome.
wanted to share. Yeah, exciting stuff. Should we get into our daily topic? Our
Yeah.
topic of the day? I was
Topic of
just
the
gonna
week.
topic of the week. Thank you. I was
You're
just gonna
welcome.
say, like, should we get into our day? And then I was like, well, no, that's not right. The
But
wrong
yes,
sentiment.
let's get into the topic of the week.
Okay, topic of the week. We are talking about dissociation, just pretty much what it is, causes and symptoms, and then going into just some kind of ways that we've personally experienced this feeling of dissociation in our lives, and kind of how we were able to deal with it. So hopefully this resonates and we'll get into it. I'll start us off with just a kind of definition of dissociation. Um, this was actually kind of interesting to me because I think I had a different definition in my head than what the actual definition is. So this was a good learning lesson for me. I got my info. Oh, geez. Sorry, microphone malfunction here. I got my God, I got my
Rewind. Take
so
two.
sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm still apparently waking up. Okay. I got my information off of verywellmind.com, an article by a Dr. Matthew Tull. Okay, so dissociation definition is that dissociation is a disconnect between a person's sensory experience, thoughts, sense of self, or personal history. So if you have trouble remembering a certain period of time in your life, for example, you may be experiencing a type of dissociation called dissociative amnesia. Um, the American Psychological Association, or the APA, defines dissociation as, quote, a defense mechanism in which conflicting impulses are kept apart or threatening ideas and feelings are separated from the rest of the psyche. So what I got out of that was that basically, we go through our lives and we have our routines, we have our tasks, whatever. We go through our daily lives. Sometimes things happen. Maybe it's a breakup, maybe it's someone you loved passing away, maybe it's something traumatic that happened to you. Maybe it's something that traumatic that happened to a loved one. Just kind of maybe basically something got thrown into the mix that your senses were not expecting or are not ready to handle, or process. So they kind of put up this blockade of those feelings, and then you can kind of continue to live out your daily life almost robotically, though you're not actually super mindfully present. And this is mostly because your mind and your brain are trying, it's a defense mechanism, like a protective mechanism, and it's just not ready to deal with whatever was thrown at you and kind of, messed up your nice little flow and rhythm you had going. So that's kind of what I got out of it as far as just like a easier breakdown. Um, Going into what dissociation feels like, someone with dissociation might feel a sense of unreality, and lose their connection to time, place, and identity. So kind of like when that wrench does get thrown in there, you kind of just, again, you feel like you're floating. You're not really grounded. This is because dissociation disrupts 4 areas of personal functions that usually operate together very smoothly and automatically with few or no problems. And these areas are your consciousness, your identity, your memory, and your self-awareness / awareness of your surroundings. So breaks in this system of like automatic functions can cause dissociation symptoms. So that's kind of like that wrench getting thrown into your daily life. Well, kind of throws all these feelings or all your basically cognitive operations get thrown off, and they're like, wow, what's going on? So that's kind of how you can feel dissociated. Dissociation can range from feeling a mild sense of detachment to where you're almost like in a daydream state. So that's kind of mild because you're just kind of, you can snap out of that pretty quickly. To then experiencing a more severe disconnection from reality. Basically, you just feel like your world is not real. You're maybe having like out of body experiences, or you're just kind of like floating through your daily lives and tasks, and then you're just like at the end of the day like, wow, what just happened, like the day over already, that kind of a deal. Some common everyday experience of this, so these are some examples of how we can feel dissociated. Common everyday experiences are kind of like when you're driving and next thing you know you're home and you're just like,
Happens way too much.
Yeah. That's not necessarily like, these ones are not necessarily bad. The other one is you get so absorbed in like a book or a movie that you lose kind of awareness of your surroundings. So these ones are just common experiences, but it's not something that we need to like watch out for, or like it's not a bad thing at all. It's just our brains are just able to function so smoothly that we kind of just are able to think about other things and we can still operate basically. Dissociation also comes about though if you have too much stress. It's one way that the mind kind of copes with that stress. It kind of just takes you out of the picture, and then you kind of go into that like robotics, and then you just kind of get stuff done. It can also be something that you experience for a short period of time, whether it's weeks or months, while something traumatic is happening. So that's, again, like a death in the family or a breakup or just something, any kind of trauma can lead to short-term dissociation. Long-term is more like months to years, and this is mostly caused by too much stress. So that's pretty much your breakdown of the definition of dissociation. It was a lot, but I felt like I have a better understanding now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what you got for us?
So I'm just going to kind of run into the symptoms of dissociation as well as causes. I got my information simply from webmd.com. So kind of touching on the symptoms kind of touches on what you've already ran through, but symptoms of dissociation, wow, I can't speak today either. Dissociation is, like you said, an out of body experience, heart pounding, lightheadedness. You might feel like a different person, emotionally numb and detached, feel little or no pain, have an altered sense of time, not remember how you got somewhere. So that's definitely driving and how did I get home?
Mm-hmm. All the time.
Tunnel vision. You may even hear voices in your head. You may have intense flashbacks that feel real. You may become immobile, and you may get absorbed in a fantasy world that feels real. Causes of dissociation. First one is trauma. Psychologically disconnecting from the present moment if something bad happens to you. This is also known as peritraumatic dissociation. This is a technique that your mind uses to protect you. And some causes of trauma could be sexual or physical assault, childhood abuse, torture, capture, car accidents, and natural disasters. Other causes of dissociation is certain drugs. So you may lose your sense of self if you drink or take illicit drugs. I'm sure we've all drank to the point where we may have blacked out before. That's kind of what came to mind when it says you drink.
Yeah,
um
maybe.
and then lastly is meditation. So meditation, like daydreaming, you become less aware of the here and now, which I found interesting that meditation is a form of that. Um, but it does make sense because you kind of, some people have said when they meditate, they feel like they've had an out of body experience. So to me,
Yeah.
it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got for you.
And that
Super
could
simple.
be, yeah, that is. But it's like interesting too. You're like, oh, I would have never thought of like some of those causes. Yeah, especially the meditation. I feel like that could kind of land in the like dissociation doesn't necessarily have to be always bad.
Yeah.
It can be just like in a moment. Like, I mean, like getting lost in a book, like that's not a bad thing to do. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
just, I think it's just because the like in the proper definition, it's like those cognitive functions of your like consciousness, identity, memory, self-awareness and stuff, one of those gets thrown off. So you're not necessarily aware of your surroundings. And so you're kind of, yeah, you're dissociating. Interesting.
Yeah.
I always thought it was just purely bad, but it's not.
I mean, I could see, just like with anything though, right? There's got to be like a fine line to it.
Yeah,
So I could kind
that's
of
true.
see like that there's a fine line to it being good or
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's also similar to when your brain tries to protect you and gives you anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
same
Mm-hmm.
concept, but too much of it, then it's like bad type
Yeah.
situation. Like that's kind of what I think of when I think it's like it crossing that line into it
Yeah.
being bad.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's like too much of a good thing is not good anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't want to completely just distance from yourself from your entire life. You want to still be present and mindful
Mhm.
and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Exactly.
But if you are doing like 10-minute or whatever, how long your meditation is, it's probably good to get to that point because that's like the
Yeah.
whole idea of meditation is to kind of like blockade everything else out and then kind of come back to and live in that. I don't know. You're right. It's just a fine. It's a very
Yeah.
fine line.
Yeah.
but but yeah, super interesting stuff.
Hmm.
Um, have you ever experienced dissociation in your like personal life?
Yes. So do you want me to dive into all my personal experience?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Then
Um,
I'll switch.
so so I have several of them, like going back to like when I was a kid and kind of like how I believe that I dissociated myself. Um, I don't know, like I think like you, I had what it was. I had a specific thing in mind of what it was, and then hearing the definition kind of threw me off a little bit. So hopefully these do pertain to to it. But do you want me to run through all of my personal experiences?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Okay. So the first one that I could think of is when I was really young. I was 16, my grandma died, and I became very numb and emotionally detached. I also would experience like intense flashbacks where with like certain things that felt really, really real. So like, for example, like if somebody talked about cancer, I could feel myself like having a flashback to like seeing my grandma kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. Seeing my grandma kind of not deteriorate, that's such a bad word to say, but essentially like her
Yeah,
body just breaking down.
yeah.
And then for the longest time too, like juice boxes, like kids' juice boxes, like that used to trigger me because like when she couldn't take like anything like that, she would drink from little juice boxes just to give her like a little bit of sugar and like keep her
Mhm.
hydrated. And then as well as like sickness in general, like if I started noticing like if family members or people I knew started to get sick and they started to change in appearance, like that would really trigger me in a way where it like would bring flashbacks of like my grandmother and seeing her that way.
Mhm.
um I also feel like around this time I became a different person and started to really make like poor decisions, and I wasn't really like myself.
Mm.
um I just did everything I could to kind of distract myself from having to like come to terms with losing my grandma. So that's like the first experience where I really could identify
Yeah.
doing this. Kind of moving on from that, just as a teenager in general, I was going out and drinking and partying a lot more than like for my age. Like, I mean, I know in high school we all partied and went out, but like I probably did it a little bit more than other people. I, was bullied for being skinny, and I liked a certain boy and everybody knew that I liked that certain boy, and like I was kind of made fun of for liking that boy because like I just never saw anybody else in
Mm-hmm.
high school. Like he was kind of all I saw. So I was also told like in my teenage years that I was just sensitive and shy. So I feel like I dissociated in a way of trying to be someone I wasn't. So that's why like I
Mm-hmm.
kind of went out and partied a lot and drank a lot, which led to like out of body experiences and just feeling like a different person.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it was just because I was insecure and scared to be myself. So I tried to disassociate from who I truly was instead
Yeah.
of like having that sense of self.
Yeah. You like lost your identity, and you weren't even able to like truly form your identity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like that's kind of how I dissociated in high school and in my younger childhood. I think a lot too, like I had some pretty big heartbreaks throughout my life. And I think obviously that I would disassociate from those heartbreaks kind of in the same way, just kind of try to distract myself and not really come to terms with the reality of it. And then lastly, I think this is the more recent way I've dissociated, but just having exhaustion and a lack of purpose and fulfillment. I've noticed in previous jobs when I was unhappy, I would try to lose myself in books, like just reading and get out of my own reality, or mindlessly scroll on social media, to the point where like I tuned everybody out. Like I had that tunnel vision specific
Mm-hmm.
to social media. So if anybody would talk to me, like I didn't hear them. And then just unhealthy binging, watching, TV shows and just being on the couch. And I had no desire to talk to anyone. I think that's more so the more recent
Mm-hmm.
ways I dissociate is just when I'm not feeling like that purpose or that fulfillment in my life, which is kind of why like we've started the podcast, and I make
Mm-hmm.
more of an effort to really speak to my purpose and make sure I'm filling my cup in a very impactful, meaningful way. Um, so those are kind of the ways that I've disassociated in the past and kind of more recently. But yeah, it's more so now, it's more so of just like being exhausted of the
Mm-hmm.
realities of life, just working hard and just being adults and not really doing anything that speaks to my soul. So that's why I really try to make an effort now to do that, because I've noticed that I have formed a habit of disassociating like when I'm not speaking to myself, my
Yeah.
soul, and my
Yeah.
sense of being.
Yeah. Yeah, that
So
totally, I feel like that's so common these days, is that like you get off work, or you get done with your day, and what's the first thing we all do? We hop on the couch and watch TV and
exactly.
just like completely forget about the rest of,
The day that you have to do
yeah,
whatever you want. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's like, I mean, 5 o'clock still early. Like we can have like an afternoon/evening of, going for a bike ride, or I don't know, going for a walk, calling someone,
Yeah.
like it doesn't have to be major, but just something to like do something like you said for yourself, or
Exactly.
and not exude all your energy into your work or your kids or your life, or your errands for the day, or whatever your day looks like. Yeah, it's sad, but it's very common. I mean, we all literally, I mean, I know I do it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it was hard to like sit down and sit with myself too and try to figure out ways I disassociated, like, because I guess like you do it more like thinking about when my grandma died, and then just as a teenager in general, like I never would have thought like that was me
Hmm.
dissociating myself,
Hmm.
but like in a way it really was.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, because you weren't dealing with the trauma that happened, you were putting up a blockade, whether that was partying or whether that was reading or whether, whatever that looked like. Yeah. And I'm sure, I'm sure you realize there's like pattern too. So now you can kind of sit back and be like, okay, if something else does come up, you can sit back and be like, okay, let's not go down. God bless you.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear it, but I saw
Perfect.
it. Well,
I try to keep it silent.
for those of you only listening, she just had the cutest tiny little sneeze.
I tried so hard.
Oh, you did great. It was just, yeah, I
Thanks.
just saw it and so I was like, oh, God bless you.
Uh,
um, yeah. But yeah, no, I think, yeah, the trauma and just not dealing with it. So now if you have something traumatic come up again, you might be able to pull from
identify
those,
it.
identify and kind of pull from those memories and just be like, okay, this is what we don't want to do this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it my turn
your
now?
turn.
Oh, yay.
Tag, you're it.
Woohoo. Can we just keep talking about you?
No, good.
um,
I went pretty deep, so.
you did. For me personally, I've had, like you, just kind of different moments of time where I've dissociated.
Say it
Also had a
5 times fast.
literally also when you've taught yourself to say it a different way and that's incorrect and then you got to correct it, it's a whole thing. But I would say, I definitely have talked about this on here before, but my childhood, I have little to no memory of it. Lately, as I've gone through healing and like really working on being open to what happened in my past, and kind of all that stuff and just trauma verbally that I heard, or like verbal trauma, I guess. When I was a young girl, those memories have kind of started to kind of creep in, or I'm just like, we'll have like a random, like, it's like a little cloud pops up in my mind and it's like, oh, remember that? And I'm like, what the? Yeah, but weird. Why did I just think of that? They're just random little things. Um, but yeah, that's only been happening as of the last like year, I would say. And so for the first 32 years of my life, really had little to no memory of my childhood. And that I really do believe I've talked with therapists about it and stuff, and it's pretty much it was a form of survival because at that young age you don't know how else to deal with stuff like that. You just kind of block it out and go along your merry way. Unfortunately, I just blocked it out for a long period of time. So I would say that'd be like the first way I dissociated. Um, I did have experienced I talked about it earlier, the dissociative amnesia, where you just kind of forget a portion of time. And this happened after my car accident. Um, I I remember the accident. There's probably a good like 6 months or so that I couldn't tell you what I did or didn't do. And then I kind of I start having more memories probably 8 months like after my accident. Basically when I started having to go to like all my doctor's appointments and really just trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Because I was having like just waking up and going to bed with severe migraines. It was just a lot of physical trauma. So that was actually like looking back and doing this homework and thinking of like ways I've dissociated. I was like, oh my God, I don't remember anything from that time period. And I was like 23. So definitely not, it's not like I was 6 or something like that, where it's like, all right, you were young. It was a long time ago, kind of a deal. So yeah, that was super interesting. Um, Definitely have like I said, my before and after memories. So just that I don't even know that I could draw from that portion of time, no matter how much healing I went through. So it's just kind of a gone blip, but it just is what it is. I know when my parents divorced, I had a really hard time. Again, that was another kind of traumatic, just kind of wrench in my everyday flow. Um, and I was older when this happened as well. So I think that also was just a weird, like, wow, you guys have been together for 25 years. Now all of a sudden that whole foundation breaking basically. that was probably my worst dissociation portion of time, mainly because I felt like I lost who I was because they were my foundation. My dad also moved out of the country, so I kind of was without a dad per se. It's difficult to maintain a really healthy, strong relationship when you only see your father maybe every other year. And you're on a 12-hour time difference, you know. I would say it was also like a time of transition too with like my career. That was a time I definitely was extremely depressed, extremely anxious. Definitely had some not positive thoughts around continuing with my life. And definitely just did have these out of body experiences and just really felt like I was going through the motions. I wasn't present at all. I didn't want to be here anymore. You know, it was kind of that thing where it was just, yeah, life was not good and I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so I really took myself out of it. But again, once you kind of sit down and go through healing processes and see patterns and understand why you're doing the things that you're doing or why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, it does help. Kind of recognizing and doing this homework because the pattern that I'm seeing is that traumatic experiences I would block out. So, and I don't deal with them. I mean, I deal with them just later. So, if something traumatic happens, maybe just give myself a month or depending on how severe it is, obviously, but giving myself time to kind of process for a second. And then maybe I can continue and realize, you know, okay, it was just one thing that happened. My life overall is still good, or is, you know, I still want to move forward and keep chugging along with my life. Yeah, definitely the like common everyday experiences, those happen all the time. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I can tell that it's kind of interesting. The driving one was happening way less since I've moved and I'm not sitting in like traffic
Yeah. Hours
for
of traffic.
hours. Yeah, that like all the time when we would used to commute back and forth to the office. I cannot tell you how many times I would get to or from work and just be like, how in the hell did I get here and not cause an accident? Like,
Yeah.
what in the
No,
world?
it's
And
true.
I was not on my phone. It wasn't because I was
Autopilot.
like, literally was just like autopilot and my mind was completely elsewhere. You know, it was
Yeah.
bizarre. But yeah, so I experienced that, especially, you know, getting lost in a book or movie too is fun. I do notice, like you said, if I'm not having like a productive day or I'm just kind of feeling blah or you know, just not feeling like I'm living up to that fulfillment, I do gravitate towards a book because it is a way to just kind of like, oh, I'm reading and learning, but I'm also forgetting about everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's like almost like trick my mind that I'm being productive when I'm just really trying to forget. So, or just numb myself. So that's kind of an interesting learning tidbit too. But yeah, I think the trauma is what really causes me personally to dissociate. And I think it's not, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say, I don't want to overhype that I was like super traumatized. I think it was just I didn't know how to deal with certain things and didn't have the knowledge at that time. And so now that I do, you can kind of take things by the horn a little bit more and be like, okay, no, I can get past this. I've gotten past this before, you know, that kind of stuff, and kind of find your strength versus completely backing off from it and just checking out.
Well, I think it's interesting too, like that everybody just is so different with certain things that is trauma to them or is I don't like using the word triggering, but affects them
Mhm.
in different ways and the ways our body protects us from that. And it's crazy because it's like you talk to anybody and it's different for every single person,
For
so
sure.
like no trauma is the same. Like no two trauma is the same. Everything's different. Like, and I think we've talked about this before about how like something that might be traumatic to you might seem to somebody else like that's not trauma at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just interesting the way our bodies react to different situations and different circumstances. So I think that's important to note too, is that we all are affected differently depending on like what's going on in our lives. But it's crazy because our bodies all do the same thing of trying to protect us, just in
Yeah.
different ways. Like the fact that you tend to block things out, whereas like I tend to try to run away, I guess, and like immerse myself in other things so I don't have to think about it. So it's just interesting seeing the
Mhm.
differences, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I've kind of always had an issue with like memories. I don't know, like I like hear other people talking about their childhood or whatever, just experiences they've had, and they just have such vivid memories of everything that I'm like, I couldn't tell you what I ate for lunch yesterday. Like, I don't like, and this has been a thing like my whole life. I just don't have those vivid memories, or I'm like, someone will say like that, this happened, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it did. Oh yeah, it did. Oh yeah, I remember that. And then just then you get, but it's still like a fuzzy picture or like a
Mhm.
faint picture. You don't have those like, but I don't know. So I don't know if that's just my brain's always been like that, but yeah, for some
I think
reason
we
the
all just
memories,
develop differently, you know?
yeah, the memories are the first to go.
You should start doing like memory and brain exercises and see if that helps. Like, they have
Honestly,
like brain training or whatever.
I do. I mean, I just play like, like puzzle games, but maybe I will try a memory specific one. See
Hmm.
if it can help
See
me
if it
even like
helps.
recall memories too. Because I do want to like remember my life. I've had a lot of fun and awesome experiences. And like I said, they are kind of starting to float to the surface here and there, but it's still like I feel like I should have more.
Mm. Well,
But um yeah, I was gonna say, if you do feel like you're kind of dissociating out there, maybe take a step back and just kind of see like why, maybe sit with yourself for a minute and just kind of see kind of what floats to the surface. Um, if you are feeling these kind of feelings, try and maybe practice some like mindfulness to be present. If you find yourself scrolling or binging TV or even food, or you're addicted to the gym, or whatever you're immersing yourself in, maybe kind of like take a step back and maybe think like, why am I doing this? Is there a reason? If there's not, and you're just wanting to live a great lifestyle, do it. But if there, sometimes there's something lying underneath the surface, and it's important to sit with yourself and really um, bring it to the surface and to your attention, so that way you can cope with it sooner rather than later, before it even gets worse. And next thing you know, years have gone by and you're like, oh shoot, where has my life gone? That kind of stuff. So I think it's something just important to keep in the back of our heads, that this is a protective mechanism that our brains and bodies do. And so just to, again, just kind of back to that mindfulness of being present and being aware of what you're doing and what you're saying, and being, how you're acting towards loved ones, or, yourself, and all of that. So,
yep, it always goes back to mindfulness and self-awareness.
yep, every time.
Yep.
But
But
hey, we're
yeah,
getting there.
we are. I do have affirmation of the
Love
week,
it. Perfect.
and it is: we create habits and problems to fulfill a need. When I can find a positive way to fulfill the need, I can release the problem.
Hmm, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
That should just be like a way of life.
that's
Interesting.
your affirmation.
I like it.
Take it however you want
Yeah.
into
I
your
like it.
week.
Yep. Take it, work on our presence, and remember that you always have something to be grateful for, and love
And love
yourself
yourself
truly.
truly.